Let me talk to you about some emergency personal line of credits from banks. The thing is that if you are thinking about getting a personal line of credit, sometimes in emergencies, you want to go to your financial institution to actually get the cash real fast. So, good news is into this conversation, I want to share with you our top emergency personal lines of credit from banks. So here are the emergency personal lines of credits I want you to pay attention to. The first bank that will take care of you real fast is Truist Bank. So if you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to consider Truist Bank. And Truist Bank does a great job because Truist Bank will give you a minimum of $5,000 and a maximum of $100,000. And the funds will be released to you within 24 hours. Okay. And if you have the right paperwork, if you have the right credit profile, Truist might actually, if you go to a branch, Truist might actually release the funds within 12 hours. Which means what? It means that if you apply, let's say in the morning by 9 o'clock, you can actually get your cash in the afternoon. Okay, you can actually have access to this emergency personal line of credit from Truist. If you have more information, you can contact Truist, and they are available at 844 487 8478. 844-487-8478. So with Truist, you have the ability to get anywhere from 5,000 all the way to $100,000. Now, if you are a professional, let's say you are a physician, you are a contractor, Truist will give you more. Okay, when it comes to emergency personal line of credit, okay, they will give you all the way to $250,000. In terms of FICO score, Truist will consider your application if you actually have anywhere from 600 all the way to 750. So that's really the sweet spot if you are trying to benefit from an emergency personal line of credit from Truist Bank. But overall, this is a really great bank, and they have a pretty decent APR too. So their APRs starts at 13.69%. So that's really good in terms of an emergency personal line of credit. If you're looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to think about Regions Bank. And Regions actually is a great bank. I mean, Regions is geo restricted, that's for sure. But the cool thing is, if you are in the geography where they operate, you could actually qualify real fast. And Truist can actually qualify you for an emergency personal line of credit and will release the funds within 24 hours. Now, Truist wants you to really apply at a branch. In other words, at this moment, if you're looking for an emergency personal line of credit from Truist, from not Truist, from Regions, Regions want you to go to a branch. Okay, so if you're looking for an emergency personal line of credit from Regions, you have to really go to a branch. The cool thing here is that you have the ability to actually qualify for a maximum of $50,000. So that's really good because basically you are able to get the cash within 24 hours, and that's really fantastic. If you have any question about the emergency personal line of credit from Regions, I want you to really call. There's a number that you have to call: 1-888-462-7627. So 1-888-462-7627. So the maximum line of credit for emergencies here is $50,000. Regions doesn't go as much as $100,000 as Truist Bank, but hey, listen, it's still worth it anyway. And Truist will consider your application for an emergency personal line of credit if you have a minimum FICO score of 625. It really depends on the state where you're in, the city and state where you're in, but they look at 625 all the way to 650 to be the sweet spot in terms of emergency personal line of credit. Okay, so $50,000, you can use the cash for all kinds of emergencies. You can finance large projects. You can actually take care of everyday emergencies. Okay, let's say something happened, disaster strikes, and you need cash real fast. Regions is there for you, and the minimum you can get with Regions is $500. So $500 in terms of emergency personal line of credit from a bank. If you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to consider Fifth Third Bank this year. And the cool thing about Fifth Third Bank is that Fifth Third is pretty generous, very generous, because you can get an emergency personal line of credit from Fifth Third that goes all the way to $100,000. Kind of similar to Truist, because the line goes from 5,000 all the way to $100,000. That's really good. The cool thing about this unsecured personal line of credit is that you get the cash within 8 hours. So Fifth Third is really fast too. So if you apply, you can get the cash within the same day. But hey, listen, if you want to get the cash the same day, it's just better to have a prior relationship with Fifth Third Bank. Okay, have an account with them. Haven't been there for many months or years, having sufficient cash inflows and cash inflows, so they can see your account properly. Okay, and but there is an element of collateralization that you need to account for. Why? Because with Fifth Third Bank, if you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit, you need to have up to 10% of verified liquid assets. So they're not going to ask you to collateralize the line of credit, but they just want to make sure that you have verified liquid assets. So if for instance you want to be approved for $50,000 as an emergency personal line of credit, they will ask you to provide 5,000. In other words, 10% of 50,000, and you have to provide that in verified liquid assets. Okay, and you have 5-year draw period followed by a 10-year repayment period. So that's really good. And the APR with Fifth Third Bank is pretty decent. You're looking at 10% all the way to 13%. So that's really good. Okay. If you have any question about Fifth Third Bank and you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from Fifth Third Bank, think about having a FICO score minimum of 600. And it's just better to go to a branch or schedule an appointment online. So you can call 1-866-671-5353. 1-866-671-5353. So that's really good to think about it. If you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to think about PNC this year. And PNC is actually a wonderful bank in terms of customer service, but also how fast they approve you. And PNC will approve you within 24 hours, okay? 24 hours, that's pretty good if you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit. And PNC is pretty open to all kinds of emergencies, especially if you are able to document the emergency. In other words, if you're able to show them, hey, since that there was a disaster or something happening, or maybe I'm in the military or whatever. I mean, PNC, by the way, is really, really military friendly, by the way. So if you are a veteran or a member of the Reserve Guards, you are really you will love PNC. So PNC actually will approve you if you have a FICO score minimum of 630. If you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from PNC, 630 minimum FICO score will be really helpful to you. Okay, so you want to call 1-877-225-5762. Of course, we are speaking about an unsecured personal line of credit. Okay, as for emergencies and all kinds of emergencies. By the way, as long as you have unexpected expenses, you are able to really to get the cash you need from PNC. But PNC is not really that generous because they are giving you emergency personal lines of credit that go from $1,000 all the way to $25,000. If you want them to approve you for much more, you're gonna have to collateralize part of the transaction. So they're not giving you an unsecured line of credit if you are looking for something above 25,000. But the cool thing to remember here is that PNC is, I think I've said this before, is a veteran. It's a military-friendly institution. As a matter of fact, they even have a line dedicated to members of the military. So that's 844 PNC SCRA. 844-762-7272. So that's really fantastic. If you're looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to think about U.S. Bank this year. And U.S. Bank does a great job in terms of possibilities. And U.S. Bank also will take care of you, especially when it comes to giving you the funds real fast. So U.S. Bank will give you the funds within 24 hours. And so you're able to get instant ongoing funds for your goals. And but the U.S. Bank, the requirements is a little stricter, if you will. U.S. Bank wants you to have a FICO score of 680 minimum. 680 minimum, okay? And so if you have 680, you can actually qualify and receive funds within 4 hours. 4 hours. So that's really good, okay? So you can use, when you think about an emergency personal line of credit from U.S. Bank, you are looking at a maximum line amount of 25,000, kind of similar to PNC. So PNC or U.S. Bank is not as generous as Truist or Fifth Third Bank. I mean, Fifth Third Bank and Truist, they're giving you $100,000. They're giving you 4 times the maximum PNC or U.S. Bank are giving you, right? So that's really important to think about. So the thing is, when you are considering U.S. Bank for an emergency personal line of credit, it does help big time if you are an existing customer. If you are an existing customer, you are able to apply online. You can apply on the phone, or you can apply at a branch. And in terms of number, you can actually call 1-800-491-3150. As a matter of fact, you can also apply for an emergency personal line of credit through the U.S. Bank app. Okay, and if you get approved, you get your cash within 4 to 8 hours. So that's really fantastic, especially when it comes to flexibility, but also when it comes to accessibility of the funds. Okay, and one thing I want to say here is that you are also able to get an emergency personal line of credit from U.S. Bank that goes above $25,000, but kind of similar to a PNC. You're gonna have to collateralize the excess of line of credit you want. If you are looking for an emergency personal line of credit from a bank, I want you to think about KeyBank this year. And KeyBank actually does a great job in terms of giving you the funds within 2 hours. I mean, KeyBank is the fastest when it comes to the institutions we have actually reviewed. And so KeyBank will give you the cash within 2 hours. But 2 hours just means what? 2 hours means that you have a prior relationship with the bank. KeyBank will look at your prior history. We'll look at your cash inflows and cash outflows. We'll look at your paperwork, and we'll look at also how long you've been a customer. Okay, so that's important. But KeyBank, kind of similar to U.S. Bank or PNC, KeyBank is giving you a maximum of $25,000 only. I mean, you might say only, but hey, listen, money is money. Okay, 25,000 is still money anyway. But when you compare this to the 100,000 that the others are giving, this could be a little paltry, if you will. And also on top of that, when you think about KeyBank, KeyBank kind of similar to PNC or U.S. Bank, you have to account for the geo restriction. Okay, so KeyBank wants you to live in a few states to actually qualify for its emergency personal line of credit. So before I give you the states, so the line amounts go from $2,000 all the way to $25,000. And KeyBank will approve you anywhere from 2 hours all the way to 8 hours. You can get your cash real fast. And to actually qualify for a KeyBank emergency personal line of credit, you want to actually live in Arkansas. You want to live in Colorado, in Connecticut, Idaho, Indiana, Massachusetts, Maine, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Vermont, or Washington State. I'm going to say this again because it's important to know that if you qualify. So Arkansas, Colorado, Connecticut, Idaho, Indiana, Massachusetts, Maine, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Vermont, or Washington State. So Those are the states you have to live in. If you're looking for an emergency personal line of credit from banks, I want you to think about BMO. So BMO Harris Bank is actually a wonderful bank to consider for your emergency personal line of credit. And BMO actually will give you a maximum of $50,000, okay? And you can get your cash within 12 to 18 hours. And the cool thing is that BMO actually used to be a tier 3 bank. In other words, a regional, like a sub-regional bank. But since the acquisition of Bank of the West last year, BMO has actually catapulted itself into the tier 2 category, kind of similar to KeyBank, US Bank, Fifth Third, or PNC. So that means what? BMO nowadays has access to a lot more branches, let's say a larger geography, including California, okay? And the cool thing about BMO Harris is that they will consider your application for an emergency personal line of credit if you have a minimum FICO score of 600. So that's really good. Now, the cool thing about BMO Harris also is that you can do things actually online or through the app. I mean, a lot of banks want you to go to a branch, but with BMO Harris, they actually have, sorry about that. They actually have a pretty solid tech foundation for their website, but also for their app. So you can actually do things actually through those conduits, okay? And you can use an emergency personal line of credit from BMO Harris for home improvements, for a large expense, let's say a large unexpected expense. You can actually consolidate your debt. I mean, if debt consolidation is an emergency for you right now, BMO Harris will actually come to the rescue. You can also take the line of credit for vehicle financing or refinancing. Okay, so that's really good. So, but if you want to have more information, it's just better to go to a BMO Harris branch and ask all the questions that you have. You can also call. There's a number 1-888-340-2265. 1-888-340-2265. So that's a number that will answer all questions about emergency personal lines of credit from BMO Harris Bank. The cool thing is you can get your cash within 8 hours, 8 to 12 hours. In some cases, you might get your cash actually within a day, yeah, maximum a day. So that's still good anyway when it comes to emergency personal lines of credit from banks. So, in conclusion, to this conversation, I spoke to you about emergency personal lines of credit from banks, and I give you the emergency personal lines of credit. And so you have a Truist Bank, you have Regions Bank, you have a Fifth Third Bank, you have PNC, you have U.S. Bank. Sorry about that. You have U.S. Bank, you have Key Bank, and finally you have BMO Harris Bank. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.